Well, it's a pleasure and a daunting pleasure, actually, to speak from the same podium from which Angela Rayner and Marvin Rees have just given inspirational, superb speeches conference, isn't it? So I will not be able to match their eloquence, I can tell you. But I first came to the Labour Party conference in 1996. I was 17, a working-class son of a Salford casino croupier who was active in the GMB section of the casino branch. And I was a steward on the door, checking the passes to this conference hall, or the conference hall in Blackpool as it once then. Well, today I am honoured, privileged, proud that 20 years later I'm here at this conference as a member of your shadow cabinet. And it's a great responsibility and a duty that I will uphold by doing all I can, as I know you will too, to secure our party victory at the next general election. Now, last year our leader, Jeremy, asked that I work with all of you on our campaigns against the Tory government. Back then, David Cameron was Prime Minister. George Osborne was Chancellor. Ian Duncan Smith, you remember him? He was the Pension Secretary. They wanted to cut benefits for disabled people. They wanted to slash tax credits for millions of families. Well, conference, we said no, we fought back, we defeated them. And doesn't that show you what we achieve when fully effective in Parliament, united, working together, taking on the Tories and in touch with our constituents, conference? Now we have a new Prime Minister and a new Cabinet. And they like to tell us, this is their quotes, I promise, that they are the friends, quotes, of ordinary working-class people. Fine words, but it's by their deeds they shall be known. Because a Prime Minister and a Cabinet who have an economic policy to slash public services, cut support for those on lower and middle incomes to fund tax cuts for the very rich, a Prime Minister who appoints David Davis as Brexit Minister, a man who branded the social chapter job-destroying, a Prime Minister who brings back Dr. Liam Fox, a man who called the minimum wage a mistake. Well, conference, a Prime Minister who appoints Dr. Fox and Mr. Davis is no friend of ordinary working-class people. Of course, not all the ministers have changed, of course. Jeremy Hunt is still there. A man who hasn't met a junior doctor we won't pick a fight with. Well, conference, a Prime Minister who keeps in place Mr. Hunt is no friend of the National Health Service. And by the way, Dr. Fox, David Davis, and you, Boris, don't think we've forgotten. You promised us $350 million a year for our National Health Service. Get on and deliver it, or have the grace to admit you lied to the British people. Now the Prime Minister also likes to talk, have you heard this one, of compassionate conservatism. Have you heard that one? Well, it's not compassionate, it's not fair, it's not on the side of the many to divide children at 11, branding thousands of them failures. Parents want the very best for every child, not the return to the 11 plus. So conference, as Angela said, we will not yield, we will not equivocate, we will fight these Tory grammar school plans every step of the way. So whatever the rhetoric, The reality of the Tories in government is clear. Slower growth, more cuts, no plans for Brexit, an NHS in crisis, the climate change department scrapped, rising poverty, the return of the 11+, fixing constituency boundaries, attacks on trade unions. Well, they can change the person at the top. They can appoint a new cabinet, but it's completely clear to us it's still the same old nasty Tory party, and we'll take them on at every turn. So, look, we've got a job of work to do, because we speak for those who have no voice. We remember those too often forgotten, and we offer an approach grounded in the realities in which people live their lives. We challenge the fundamental unfairnesses of an economy that excludes far too many from collective wealth. We seek a society built around human needs and human wants, where for investment in housing, in infrastructure, in education, we tackle the savage inequalities that scar our society. We don't meekly accept that 900,000 of our fellow citizens in work should have to rely on 0 hours contracts. And we don't tolerate an economy where men and women who do work full-time, still on the way home from work, have to pick up a food parcel from a food bank to feed their family. So this week, as John McDonnell said yesterday, we reaffirm a very simple principle that this movement has long stood for. When men and women work for a living, they should be paid a genuine living wage. And when confronted with abuses like we've seen at Sports Direct, and I pay tribute to Unite, or indeed the abuses we've seen at Samworth's in Leicester, where I've been working with the Bakers Union, we don't just shrug our shoulders like the Tories do. We don't abdicate responsibility. We say there is a fairer way. We'll ensure every working man and woman the dignity, respect and the rights they deserve. And because we all know that housing deprivation drives so much of the grotesque inequality we see around us, the Tories spend £9 billion a year lining the pockets of private landlords. It doesn't work. Isn't it time, as we have committed, to start building council houses to again provide decent homes for everybody who needs one? And our crusade for social justice doesn't stop at our borders. We deliberately, quite consciously, align ourselves with some of the poorest of the world and their struggles. So we have a warning for Theresa May. We've seen who you've appointed to DFID. Well, we will not acquiesce in any attempts to cut development spending and betray some of the very poorest people of the world. And we also speak firmly against large-scale tax avoidance, because when governments tolerate tax avoidance, it's ordinary people, public services and the world's poor who pay the price. So rather than closing Sure Start centres, let's start closing tax loopholes. Instead of cracking down on our public services, crack down on tax havens and deliver tax justice for the poorest of the world once and for all. And friends, we're in the Labour Party because we all dream of a better world, and crucially, we know a better world is possible. And as one of my favourite poets said, in dreams begins responsibilities. So when this conference ends, our responsibility is to scatter across our communities, speak to people, listen to people, and ensure this party is elected for the people. And our responsibility also is to unite, conference. And that means remembering that our opponents, whatever's happened, our opponents don't wear red Labour rosettes. Our opponents wear blue, green, yellow, purple rosettes, and that's who we need to focus on. And as Dave Prentice said yesterday, every great progressive reform ever put on the statute books was because of this party winning elections. And that's why this last year I've travelled 5,000 miles campaigning with you on the doorstep, listening to people in your communities. And when we talk to people, it's clear they don't just want sympathy for their plight. They want us in government to change their lives. Like the man in Southampton I met, who fears he will lose his family home, where he grew up, where he brought up his children, because of the Tory party's pay-to-stay tenant tax. I've met students, as we all have, shackled by huge debts, or the pensioners I met in Hucknall in Nottinghamshire, struggling to pay the electric and who are worried for their grandchildren, who can't afford or can't find decent, secure jobs. Or the man in my Leicester constituency who has serious health problems. He was disallowed ESA, he was sanctioned on JSA, lost his home and had to sleep rough in the local park. In their names, and thousands like them, let's pledge ourselves to united effort, to rebuilding, to winning, to seek that brighter and better day. In their name, keep the faith with our Labour values. Leave the sneers and slurs to our opponents. So yes, in dreams begin responsibilities. Optimism always defeats despair. And for the country and the people we serve, I will never give up. We will never give up. Labour never gives up. Thank you.